increasing the deductibility for tax purposes of very high wealth income individuals on their charitable contributions of a state match with the federal. So they'd still have their federal deduction, but we would be reducing potentially their state deduction on their charitable contributions. The research shows that would not have an impact on charitable giving, but it may help us get to where we need to go in the budget.
How much money do you think you could get out of that?
There are lots of estimates depending on at what rate we do that. But last I heard, potentially $100 million.
Wow, that's actually, but okay, so if you did that though, that would still be less than you would be able to get from the clothing tax, so you're going to have to make up the difference somewhere as well.
Well, again, there's a whole series of different proposals that I have heard thrown around about the clothing tax, starting on certain dates, ending on certain dates, a 50% change, a no change after a certain date. You know, that's another reason that we don't want to do that kind of tax on people, because it not only is a tax burden on working people, it's also very confusing to keep changing a tax rate depending on what the month or the week is.
What's the likelihood actually that you'll have to stay through the weekend, or that you'll actually start passing some budget bills tomorrow? And also, of course, you have that looming Monday deadline that the governor insists that he will be putting his budget, unless you come up with something, into the next round of extenders, essentially forcing your hand, the collective hand of the legislature, on things that you don't like the soda tax, for example, maybe wine and grocery stores and other revenue generators, and very big cuts, the $1.4 billion education cut. I mean, where are we going to be seeing some passage of actual bills?
Well, as you pointed out, the clock is beyond ticking. The Senate Democrats are absolutely prepared to stay here morning, noon, and night to get this budget done literally before the deadline. The governor has thrown sort of the challenge to us that Monday, he says it's the last extender. There has to be a budget done or a different extender on Monday. So I personally am feeling confident we're getting this done. There will be a lot of kicking and screaming between now and Monday, and let's be honest, no one is going to like this budget. This is a really bad news budget. The state of New York doesn't have money. We are doing harm to important programs through the cuts. We don't believe we have a lot of options open to us right now, and so we know at the end of the day, we don't think we're going to be happy, the Assembly's not going to be happy, the governor's not going to be happy, but we're going to get this deal done.
Well, most importantly, of course, the voters might not be so thrilled either, and it is an election year. I know a lot of people feel a lot of pressure to get out of the Capitol and to get onto the campaign trail. But before I let you go back to the chamber, and I know you're voting, and I do appreciate your time, some strange bills that have been coming up, actually, and getting passed. There was one that you sponsored for a very bizarre practice that has to do, a terrible practice that has to do with animals that I had never even heard of. I mean, where did this come from, and how did you come to sponsor this bill?
Well, it was brought to my attention by constituents who pointed out that there had been, and to be honest, I had never heard of this really horrible sub-industry called crush videos, which had been outlawed by Congress in 1999, but the Supreme Court had been forced to overturn the law. What crush videos are is women in stiletto shoes and other sexually provocative outfits, which I have no problem with, but crushing to death small animals.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
And it was so horrifying to me that that was yet again illegal, and in fact, we went from a big industry in crush videos to none at all, to a growing industry. Again, people paying up to $300 for these videos. And of course, this is horrible, horrible animal cruelty. And animal cruelty often affiliates and associates with violence and cruelty to children and escalates from there. So we figured out the constitutional problem the Supreme Court had with the federal law, and we carefully crafted the law so that it meets the constitutional test, and I'm very, very happy that we have passed it in the New York State Senate, and I believe that this will become law in the near future.
It's the most bizarre thing. Now, this is also passed in the Assembly, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you know, I've been here in the Senate all day, so I'm not sure. I'm hoping they have passed it today. We're passing so many bills right now, but I'm confident it will pass, yes.
Okay, and before I let you go, let me just ask you also, even though there's no segue to get out of that subject, so I'm just going to leave it and go on to a totally unrelated subject, which is today's ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court regarding the theft of honest services statute. You served with former Senate Majority Leader Joe Bruno. You are known as one of the more outspoken reformers in the chamber. What is your thoughts on, or what are your thoughts rather, on this ruling that happened today?
Well, I do understand that the Supreme Court made the ruling. It's not clear what the court will do about Senator Bruno's specific guilty charge. I have always stood by the fact that legislators should be held to a higher standard of accountability. There were many who pointed out that the federal law might have been flawed. We have tried to move a state law that would be more stricter than the federal and make it clear without any doubt that that kind of activity is a violation of the law, but I don't know what the courts will do with Senator Bruno's conviction, but I don't think there's any question in anyone's mind that he was guilty of behavior that was not acceptable for a legislator in New York State.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Liz Krueger. I want to thank you for your time, and have a good evening. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Liz. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there is still much to come on Capitol tonight. There has been a lot of talk about redistricting reform over the past few months. But is there enough momentum now to get a bill through the legislature? We will be asking the sponsor of the Assembly bill, Mike Gianaris, after the break. Capitol Tonight is back right after this quick break.